Alright guys, today I'm going to go over my review for EA Sports Hockey League from the NHL 19 beta. I'm going to go over all my feedback and thoughts throughout the game mode and what I think is going to happen come NHL 19. I'm No Sleeves 12. Alright, so my first takeaway from the beta as far as the EA Sports Hockey League goes is that if you were one of the lucky few to actually play the game mode, then that was a rare occurrence. Unfortunately, it was filled with error codes and it got to the point where you actually had to relaunch the app to actually get into the game if you got error coded out of it. We've been assured in the Game Changer chat that this was one of the main focuses of the beta and that the server stuff is being addressed very, very seriously so that come launch it doesn't happen nearly as much as it did during the beta. So, you know, if you didn't get to experience it all that much, I can totally understand. It was frustrating from my point of view as well. Just trying to get into a game was a battle enough. So, from that standpoint, it was real rough when it came to the server stuff, but that's what the beta is for, and I have full confidence that they're actually going to fix this come the launch of the game. Now let's actually discuss the mode itself. It remains mostly unchanged when it comes to the actual presentation of it, other than the menu system and when you launch in. That is my probably one of the biggest negative feedbacks I have from the whole beta is, again, the menus were brutal. Unfortunately, when you launch into the actual team, like your team setup when you're in your hub for about to go play a game, it'll list you in the order that which you actually come into the lobby, and it'll display your position to the left or right instead of it displaying you know, in the main lobby is what it did in 18, and then you chose your position and moved over. I think that because builds can be anything, whereas if you're playing center, you could actually be two-way defender. I think that's why they're not having it listed so statically when it comes to left and right defense, but I think that if they go back to the old method, it's a lot less confusing and a much smaller mess than what it is right now, because it is very just jumbled up and confusing to look at. When it comes to gameplay, again, pochecks remain prevalent. If you relied on pochecking in 18 in EA Sports Hockey League, you're in for a hard, rude adjustment because just like in Versus and will be in HUT, pochecking is dialed way up so that you can't rely on spamming pokes. I think that when it comes to sixes, it's going to create a pretty big gap, much like in Versus, where you actually have to learn your position extremely well and can't rely on being out of position and just banging the pocheck button a million times. So I think that is a good change. When it comes to holding the puck and whatnot and deking, the skating is so much better that you're actually able to pull some of these dekes off. The L2 speed burst does exist still in EA Sports Hockey League, so I'm hoping that they adjust that because you shouldn't be getting that much of a speed burst when just smashing L2 a little bit on the rush. I think that needs to be dialed back, and it will make the game mode better overall. So, since pochecking was basically removed from the game mode, just like in Versus, bumping is the new way to get someone off the puck. What happens is if you just kind of guide your player into an opposing player and just kind of bump them off the puck, your player would lose it so much that it became kind of annoying, where you basically just had to avoid contact with all other players. You couldn't really hold on to the puck. I don't know if that's going to be adjusted. It could be, but it might be what is in place of the new lack of pochecking, because you just get a penalty every time you pocheck. So there was the new tuner halfway through or near the end of the beta that did dial back pokes. I didn't play a ton of sixes after that. I played about 1 or 2 games, and I didn't notice as many pochecking penalties, but bumping was definitely still there. And I know among the hardcore community for sixes, that bumping is kind of annoying, but that might just be the new way to get the puck back come 19. Let's talk about goalies for a second. Goalies in the beta were having a field day. It seemed that the adjustments they made from 18 to 19, at least in the beta, made it insanely easy to stop pucks and whatnot. I don't know if it, because the overall game mode, it's harder to score. You can't do short side wristers and things like that, but you weren't really able to do that in sixes with a manual goalie anyways, or threes. But now it's like, you know, normal shots that might have a chance of going in. Goalies had a much easier time saving just by the animations they were making and being able to almost just middle sit. But I remember in 18's beta, it was a lot like that as well, and that might be fixed come 19. So far in the beta, it does seem that goalies had an extremely easy time, so that's something to watch for definitely come NHL 19. So one of the things that wasn't added that I still really wish was is the fact that there's still no captains for your club. You're still not able to put a captain for your EA Sports Hockey League 6s or 3s club, which I think is such an easy adjustment that just, wasn't included. But here we are. As far as the actual speed of the game, I found it to be much better. I think that it isn't so sluggish. Another thing I noticed is that there isn't such a big discrepancy in West and East Coast connection, which if you play any competitive league like LG or VG, you know that if someone hosts on West and you're an East team, you're going to play like you're stuck in the mud. In 19, the ping rate went from, instead of being in the 40s when you're on East and playing on a West Coast, to about 30, which is much more manageable. And that might change the way that the competitive 6s are played, at least going into next season. So that is a good change so far. The progression system remains the same when it comes to unlocking like the Yager hair and everything like that. You just go and work through getting prestige and whatnot, and eventually you'll get to the max. That hasn't changed at all. What I do like is that if you play 6s or you play 1s, you can use like your stick and skates and whatnot in 6s, which I guess, again, it's just customization stuff, but it's easy to grind and something to actually play when you're not able to play with your club in 3s or 6s. I think that that's a much better way to do things as far as progression goes. Instead of having to grind 6s and 3s for some of that stuff, you can do it in 1s, which is just a lot cooler and a lot easier to do, and I think a lot of people are going to enjoy that. Obviously, the biggest adjustment and change in NHL 19 is the new build system. No longer are you locked into being whatever you are as far as forward or defense. You don't have to just choose forward or defenseman builds. If you're on defense, you can play as a grinder. If you're on forward, you can play as a two-way defenseman. I think this is going to open up a ton of different customization options until whatever we find is the meta going into NHL 19. Obviously, so far, what we've learned is that bigger builds tend to be more successful so far because smaller builds just get crushed in this new physics engine in NHL 19 as far as the beta went. I know that power forward and two-way forward were among the more popular ones, and on defense, two-way defenseman was awesome. I know that specifically on forward, if you wanted to play two-way defenseman, it had all the benefits of two-way forward, but it had better body checking, and then you want to mix around with the height and weight, and it offers up a lot more customization instead of the static like enforcer defenseman, defensive defenseman, where your weight and size is already predetermined. This is going to increase the amount of actual fun you have in the game by a ton because you get to mess around and play the style you want. If you want to be quick and fast and have a wicked shot, go sniper, a small sniper. If you want to just go around and crush people, make a 6'8" enforcer defenseman and just destroy kids. It's a great adjustment, and it's a great addition to the game. So because of the new build system, I think that 3s is going to be affected quite a bit because I think that being a smaller build in 3s might have obviously much more advantageous features than being a bigger build in 3s, just because there's so much open ice. That being said, guys, if you're not playing competitive 6s already on VG or League Gaming, definitely look into it. I play on League Gaming, and it's been amazing this last year. It's super fun, super competitive. You're going to meet a ton of good and great players in the community, and it's something that I would totally recommend for everyone. So guys, if you liked the video, have any comments and things of your own, please hit it with a like and a comment. Let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions about joining League Gaming, let me know as well. Hit me up on Twitter at NoSleevesGaming or in the comments section below, and I'll be sure to help you guys out. You guys stay sweet.